Thank you for joining me on this first movie commentary for my film, The Special. All you have to do is either download this file from YouTube or just hit play on YouTube and start play when you see this logo, Bricktop Productions. And my commentary will begin, and off we'll go. And welcome to the director's commentary for The Special. Thanks so much for being with me. This is Harrison Smith, and I'm trying something new here, and let's see how this goes. So you see all these cool opening credits here. I'm going to give you a little background on how I came to The Special. It was brought to me as a script by Mark Kasabucky, Monster Mark, a special effects artist up in Erie, PA, whom I've known for a long time and is a top shelf guy. He said, I have this script from a guy named Mark Steensland, and you should take a look at it. It's pretty cool. So I read the script, and I did think it was really cool. It evoked a lot of Tales from the Dark Side kind of thing, creep show. And that's what I said to the author, Mark Steensland. I said, this is really great, but I don't know if there's enough here for a full feature film. And so we talked back and forth here and there, and he got back to me a little about, I would say about maybe a year and a half, maybe 2 years later. And he had teamed up with another writer, James Newman, and they wrote a novella of The Special and did a new script and said, we think you'll be pretty happy with it. And we fleshed a lot of things out. They listened to some of my notes, I guess, and just on their own. And indeed, they came back with this really great story. And so I decided I'm going to try to get this thing made, and going through and finding the financing and all of that stuff that I won't bore you with. I knew that the big thing is that this has to look good. It cannot look cheesy or cheap or low grade. So the key to this was finding an excellent crew, and under the leadership especially of a director of photography named Matt Neese. So you can see from these opening titles, we went out of our way to show production value. But it's going through the hole here and coming out on the other side that we wanted to open with a money shot here, no pun intended, of the York skyline. This was shot in York and Lancaster, PA. And we really wanted to show that we're playing for keeps. And so we wanted to show this skyline and get some production value in. Now, the two actors that you see here, you see Dave Sheridan with the beard, and then you see Davey Raffaele. Davey Raffaele has been with me a long time. You'll notice on my IMDb, if you go and look, I bring back a lot of my actors and a lot of crew. You try to always pay it forward. And Davey's been with me since 6 Degrees of Hell. He was brought to my attention by a fellow director and writer, a very talented guy named Joe Raffa, who just recently did Dark Harbor. But his first film was called You'll Know My Name. And Joe had Davey in that film, and he stood out. He was fantastic. So I brought Davey in to 6 Degrees of Hell, and then he played a lead role in my Camp Dread, and then he was also one of the lead roles in Zombie Killers. So for The Special, I knew that I just saw Davey as Jerry, and we'll come back to that in a moment. And then you see Dave Sheridan, known to many of you from the Scary Movie franchise, and Dave was just fantastic to work with, an excellent sense of humor, and most of all had that edge to play that meaning well, but maybe not so well, workmate and so-called friend. So what attracts me to Davey in bringing him to this role is that Davey has a kind of, if you look at his face when you're watching this, he has this kind of Anthony Perkins thing about him, a Norman Bates kind of thing. Like, he has an adult face, but he also has a very boyish face. And what I loved about Davey is he can express like 5 different things in a single expression. Like right here, you can see him like there's a bit of a what, and then disgust and anger and mistrust. All these things come through at the same time. We shot this scene. It was like almost 7 degrees below zero without the wind chill. And with the wind chill, it was like 20 degrees below zero the night that we shot this car scene. It's really great to watch Dave and Davey play off of each other. They had great chemistry. This whole middle finger thing was Dave Sheridan's idea, and I love it. He just added so much. And again, speaking of so much, you can see we really wanted to show this nighttime skyline to really give a kind of big screen feel to what really is a very small movie. The budget for The Special is extremely small. Someone at a festival said, "Oh, would you shoot this for 3 million?" And when I guess they saw my face, they said, "Oh, was it higher?" And I said, "No, actually lower." They said, "How much lower?" And I said, "Well, why don't you try Antarctica? Go south." That's how low it is. Madame Zora's, which they just pulled up to, is really known as the York Inn. It was a historic bed and breakfast. And we got to shoot there for Madame Zora's parlor. And if you look real close, I think you probably saw in the opening, you saw the psychic sign. That was built by our producer and the guy who plays Yvonne, Doug Henderson. And he built it out of plastic and LED lights because we didn't have money in the budget for a neon sign. Now, all the architecture that you see here, you see all this production design, this is all real. This is an actual set. The girl sitting down is Christina, and the girl in red is Alexandra. And I've worked with Alexandra on Death House, and Christina was new to this film, but it's Janae Palmer right here who plays Sin. And she brought a really cool kind of layer to Sin. Sin is probably the favorite in the house, and David Sheridan alludes to that. But she also seems to have some kind of psychic ability because she knows Jerry's name before his name is even announced. And we added the glitter to her. She was such a champ. Not only did she perform in these outfits, but no problem in pretty much sprinkling glued glitter all over her face and body. So she was a real champ with all of this. And that was another thing about making films. You really just get to work with some really nice people. And that's the important part about independent filmmaking. So right here you can see she just said his name, and he doesn't know how she knows his name. And it all comes down to the eyes. The desire is in one's eyes. Now, speaking of working with people over and over, coming up here will be Madame Zora, played by Susan Moses. And she'll be coming down the steps in a moment. And Susan is just terrific. I've worked with Susan now on 4 motion pictures. There she is. And Susan first starred in The Field. She played Tara Reid's mother in my first film, The Fields. And then I brought her back as a psychic in 6 Degrees of Hell. And she played Myrna, the waitress in Camp Dread, which was a tip of the hat to Psycho 2. And then she played in Zombie Killers as well. So I was happy to work with Susan again. One of the most lighthearted, kindest people you'll ever work with. And she got this great Bela Lugosi kind of Hungarian accent down. In fact, Davey calls her Dracula in this. So I love Susan's kind of false outrage and amusement. She knows she's not like her other girls. She calls them her dolls. But she says, you don't find me attractive. And that's just so great, the emphasis that she put on it. Dave's faces are terrific, and he has a good banter back and forth with Susan. Now, this is really great. Matt Neese, our director of photography, was the one who came up with the idea of basically coloring, the color scheme. I gave him a lookbook at the start of this production to say I have an idea of things that I would like this thing to look like. And it was Matt who came up with the neon pastel kind of pink and blues that you see in this room. And this will become a theme throughout the rest of the movie. Also, if you're able to listen to this and also listen to the score, John Avarice has been composing for me since The Fields. And I asked him to create a kind of like a torch lounge singer, kind of bluesy femme fatale music. And the box is that femme fatale, right? She's the siren. She's the seductress. And we don't know what's in it. We have that bizarre writing on the front of the box. But it is pretty cool to hear that music in conjunction with this. Now, look, we knew from the very beginning we're going to have to contend with Justin Timberlake and Andy Samberg's Dick in a Box. So we knew we were going to have to get out in front of that right away. Even reading the script, I thought that we're just going to have to do that. And Jerry right here he's looking around the room thinking, that he's being punked, right? He's looking for cameras, Mike maybe setting him up, that kind of thing. And it gives him a chance to explore this very bizarre room because, look, you think he's going to walk in and it's going to be Sin or it's going to be some other, if there's somebody hotter than Sin, a woman waiting for him in this room. And instead we have that box. So this also gives a chance for us just to see the the set design and the lighting, which I couldn't be more pleased. Also, a big shout out to Doug Henderson as well and Matt for their editing. I just love the way the special is edited. And downstairs, this is all in the same place. This is all in the historic York Inn. Sheridan is down here, and he's going to partake in some of the sampling here for the evening. And what I'm really proud of also is that all our female actresses, despite being in very small attire, all of them felt safe and comfortable, and everything was run very professionally on our set. I'm very, very proud of that reputation. And here I just love, Davey has it right here exploring this box. He just has this great boyish curiosity on his face. Like, he's a grown man, and yet he looks like a boy, exploring something in a shop. And he's going to go along with it. Look at his face right there. His face says everything. This is why I wanted Davey for this role. And then he's going to say it. Here he comes. He laughs. He knows this is all stupid and silly. And then he's going to say the line. There it is. So we get it out of the way. We're very aware of the Saturday Night Live skit. Now, here is something interesting. I mean, aside from looking at this, but we had to be very careful. Even though this is horror, sex and horror, they strike a very funny balance, a very interesting balance. So we had to be kind of tasteful in the way that we're depicting this. You notice we don't show too many gratuitous shots below the belt. And the sound effects, you know what he's doing. And that was important because we have to think about distribution. So this whole scene where he finally experiences what's in the box and lets out that scream, which is my scream, by the way. We did not record. That was one thing we forgot that night, was to get what is called a wild sound of Davey's scream. So in post-production, I was the one who was down in the Philadelphia studio, and I put my scream in there. Consider that my cameo in the movie. So we have the box here that is now starting to kind of take a personality all on its own, which is just really cool about this. And John's score really makes that happen. You get Dave here also with his Matlock joke. I just love that he's constantly joking and has a sense of humor and really devils Madame Zora. And look at her face. I mean, this is the cool part about this, ladies and gentlemen, and that is we took this seriously. And that's what Davey said to me when he read the script. He said, look, this isn't going to be satire, right? I mean, you can have some humor in it, and there is plenty of dark humor in this. But we had to take it seriously. It's just more than a guy sticking his dick in a box. This is Doug Henderson, our producer and editor, and he also plays Ivan in the film. And he worked extremely hard on his Russian accent, even consulting with Alex, the one girl that was downstairs in red, who is from the Soviet Union, consulting about accents and dialect and everything. So we really gave it our all here. But the important thing is to keep this serious. We're taking the subject matter seriously, because the moment that if we don't take it seriously, well, then really, why should you? So we have some humor, we have some fun. Dave has always thrown some good one-liners. A lot of these funny things like, and you're not a psychic, those are all ad-lib by Dave. He's very quick, very, very quick wit. And that's what made him so great to work with. And I'll always try to get in our skyline scenes for production value for sure. And this going home, it's interesting to see how Matt lit this. Everything was lit by these small, like soft boxes, LED soft boxes. And they were placed down like between the actors' legs to give that kind of uplight, just to add more atmosphere. That was the thing that I had said in our lookbook, and that is I wanted a film noir kind of look to this. If this were in black and white, you would see, like right here with Davey's face, you'd see the contrasts and the shadowing, and we would crush those blacks down to really make this very contrasting. Jerry's house in this film, it was the home, a beautiful home. By the way, no set dressing on this by Michael and Angie Aldinger. They allowed us to shoot here. They were wonderful. They had two beautiful dogs that they just let us work around. We were going to put the dogs in the film, but we figured we might run into trouble with licensing and permitting with the ASPCA, so we didn't do it. But the dogs were always on set and they entertained everybody. But again, Matt's lighting has this great like after hours look. And again, the harsh lighting and the contrasting to evoke film noir. It was our associate producer, Felissa Rose from Sleepaway Camp, and probably all of you in horror know who Felissa Rose is, who brought us Sarah French from Los Angeles. It was Felissa who suggested Sarah for this role. And we'll talk about that in a little bit because it's a multi-layered role. And I had worked with Sarah on Death House, and she was the girl that Sid Haig stabbed in the back of the neck with an icicle. And so she was a pleasure to work with. She's a very sweet, kind girl, and most of all, very dedicated to her craft. And she was more than happy to take the role. She read the script. She loved the script. And we signed her right on board to play Lisa, Jerry's wife. And it's here where the whole centerpiece of the movie really falls into place. And that is, it is Mike warning Jerry, once is enough. You don't want to go back. You stay away. You did it. Maybe we'll revisit it sometime in the future, but just go on, get in there to your wife. And that's what I love about all of this, because it's like two boys, like college boys, right? Two frat boys coming back in, and now he's come home to the girlfriend, only this is his wife. So we have now all of a sudden what, again, look at Davy's face, how he transforms now into an adult, and especially when she just informs him that she's pregnant. And his face is not one of joy, and that's where the menace comes into Davy's face. There's a sadness there and a little confusion, but when she said, "I'm pregnant, Jerry," there was this kind of menace in his face. Like, look at him right there. There are a lot of things going through Davy, and that's what I love about him as an actor. Davy does a lot of stage work in Philadelphia, and Sarah is moving right up the ranks, taking one role after another and really becoming famous, especially in the horror world. And I love her reactions here. She plays hurt extremely well. She does, Sarah's best work is when she is subtle and she lets her face do all the heavy lifting. That's what I really enjoy about Sarah. She has a very, very expressive face. Again, more continuing with this film noir type of lighting. Again, heavy contrasting, sharp light, in and out of the shadows. If you get a chance, back this up or take a look. Notice how we lit this, that there is a black plane, like she's in the light and Davy is in the shadows because he's going dark. There's a split personality kind of thing coming. And we also are showing the schism in their marriage, the separation in their marriage. So again, palette schemes right here. We love the pastel greens. And this is Trudy. She was fantastic. She's that busybody secretary. And we needed a moment, the following day kind of thing. Jerry, we're already starting to notice, has a bit of an attitude change. He's not that kind of all shucks, what are we doing kind of guy that we met in the bar, in Mort's bar. Now we're seeing kind of an edgy, angry kind of Jerry. And it's this scene right here where we had to be real careful. Both Mark Steensland handled it extremely well in the script, but also in directing it. We had to be very, very careful about making sure this just doesn't become a horror Three's Company episode, where Mr. Furley or Mr. Roper overheard something and it blows up into something else. Because this is the scene where Jerry talks about, well, I found out that the guy I thought my wife may have been messing around with is a guy, he sells snowblowers down at a hardware store, and she's getting me a snowblower for my birthday and wanted to surprise me. So kind of interesting there as well, too, how we took all that. And again, Dave Sheridan just does a great job in handling and making dialogue sound real. And that's really tough about this. When you have people acting in horror films, usually it's a lot of screaming, a lot of running and over the top, or, playing evil and that kind of stuff. I don't want to say it's easy, but it comes easier than just playing normal. It is extremely hard to play average or normal and have normal conversations and dialogue and make them sound real. And what we were going for here is just common dialogue between two coworkers that any of you watching this right now would be able to relate to, because the common subject here is infidelity. And that is something a lot of people watching this, I said at one screening, some of you in this theater, you're going to have some very interesting conversations or awkward conversations on the way home after this. We were granted a use of a York business, a real estate business, for their offices so we could have a genuine look. We didn't want to mock up a set and try to make it look like an office. So everything that you see is real. The computers, the desktops, everything, the stuff on the walls, the whiteboards, all of that is in a real office. And again, we were very indebted to the city of York and also the city of Lancaster and the businesses that participated to let us shoot there for their locations. A number of things that I tried to balance in the special was eventually the reveal. We all want to know what's in the box, and we have to be very, very careful about when we reveal what is in the box because we don't want to lose the audience. So what I'm doing here, like for example, in this scene, you can see the way Trudy rears back at his attitude, that Jerry is a little bit different now, is to keep the audience engaged through the slow transformation of Jerry. And that is, he's no longer just this nice guy, but he's becoming a little darker and a little meaner. Now, I wanted the drone to capture footage in the way that the car looks like a mouse going through a maze to get to the cheese. And that's really what Jerry is. So here he is outside the cheese. He had tracked down a psychic, and he's going to try his offhand chance that this psychic will know who Madame Zora was. That, look, one psychic should know another psychic in theory, and if they are psychic, well, then they should really know. So we used a business in York called the Small Star Theater, run by a manager and owner, Patty Stirk, who let us shoot down here, and again gives us another great location and an interesting set. And that's what I wanted in this, was this kind of very interesting background all the time. So Jerry will now, confront this psychic. And look at his face. Like, watch Davy's face as he talks to her. Like, there are like these little twitches and like around his eye and his lip. Like, even that smile, it is menacing. We're seeing that there is something darker coming for Jerry right down the line. So he's discovered the way to get back to Madame Zora. And we shot right here on the street of York. This is right over on Market Street in York. No problems. I mean, it was just great. The weather cooperated, and here goes our mouse back into the maze to get to the really big piece of cheese. As Jerry heads toward Madame Zora's, I wanted to draw very strong attention to the editing of this film. Doug Henderson and Matt Neese in post-production took turns on editing, and it was always a delight to see what they did. Like, look at these tight close-ups and the way that they know the characters. This is one of the first films that I've had where my post-production team edited not only just to the beat and rhythm of the script and the film, but also to the feeling of the characters. I mean, these tight close-ups are fantastic and show the urgency and desperation. So it's here where we're going to have our transformation, right? Like, this is what we've been leading up to. And Jerry returned back for one more hit of the special. He took out enough money for probably two. God bless him. He's going to have to recharge. And if you look carefully, some people have said, well, Harrison, why isn't there anything like wet around the hole? I mean, it goes without saying, correct? And again, we had to be very, very careful of what is taboo and what will get us, I guess, like a problem with distribution. If it becomes too X-rated or it becomes too pornographic, I guess is the best word. So you'll notice I refrained from any type of liquid or wetness on the outside of the hole. And that is a deliberate choice, just in case that we would run into any type of problems with that. And I know some of you are going, oh my God, it's a horror film. I've seen worse. Yes, you probably have. But it also depends on the quality of the distribution on this type of level of indie filmmaking. We don't have a major celebrity A-list star to move it past this. We're a low-budget indie horror film, and you have to be very, very careful, and most of all, alienating any prospective distributor, because you have a responsibility to your financier. So this was tough because we had no stage choreography for this, like no stunt. So we had to do this all live, like, very little rehearsal to knock Susan down. And we had to be very careful of Susan. We wanted to make sure she was okay. And she was. We rehearsed this out quickly, step by step. And I talked with Susan about it. And we did run rehearsals to make sure everything went as planned. No accidents happened. Everything was planned accordingly. But in the original script, if I remember right, Mark Steensland had it that Jerry bludgeoned her to death with a table leg. And although brutal, and it would have worked, we kind of went for a more personal way to kill. Like to choke someone or strangle someone, even like this, putting your foot on their windpipe, is a very personal way of doing something. You can kill people by shooting them, whatever. I want to stop here for a second. The mirrors are highly important. Jerry is looking at his reflection. We are looking at a split personality now, an evil double kind of thing, a split image. And that is by design. So, but choking Madame Zora, crushing her windpipe, was extremely important. And we opted for that to make sure that we showed just how far Jerry has gone down this rabbit hole, and that he's willing not just to kill, but to kill so personally. And that Mazda, by the way, is my Mazda. We use the director's car for this. Again, we're on downtown York, I believe on South Beaver Street, of all places. And again, no pun intended for that. That's Doug Henderson as Yvonne. I love the way, if you knew Doug in real life, he is nowhere near like this character and nowhere near mean looking. This right here is pretty cool. We use the exterior. This is an abandoned Rita's. It was getting ready to be turned into a Dunkin' Donuts. This is pre-pandemic. And the bathroom is inside an apartment building now. So we had Jerry go into the abandoned Rita's. It looks like a gas station or a convenience store, right? And then he comes into here, and this looks like it matches up. Like you could walk into a bathroom at that place before and come right into here. But again, this is where I like watching Davey just do his thing. And Davey is meticulous. He wants lots and lots of takes. He wants to make sure that the director gets everything that they want. But his face does so much work. And again, there was nobody else I thought of for this role but Davey Raffaele. Now, this is a real place. This is Smith's Hotel in downtown Columbia, Pennsylvania. Best cheesesteaks. I'm going to give them a plug. They have fantastic cheesesteaks. And in fact, when we ate lunch here during the shoot, it caught on very fast that the cheesesteaks are the best thing on the menu. This is Anthony Barber. He is fantastic as this disgusting low-life motel manager. I love him. And if you just listen to his dialogue, especially listen to his rules when he gives them the key, it's fantastic the way that he delivers it. Anthony's been on a lot of stuff, especially House of Cards. If you just look him up on IMDb, he's got a very, very strong resume. And most of all, extremely kind to work with. For Anthony, aside from this scene right here, which was shot early because we had to shoot this before the hotel and bar opened for business in the morning, Anthony sat the rest of the day until we got to his other scenes. He drove from Maryland, and we got him out in a day. We shot all of his scenes in a day, but he had to sit like almost 12 hours. He had to sit waiting for the next one. Never a complaint, never an ill word. And he said, I've sat longer. I've been on TV shows, streaming shows. I know how this goes. And God bless him, and couldn't be happier. I can't wait to work with him again. He's a fantastic character actor. So you can hear him there. He's given his rules. And look at Davey with that twitch. Watch when he says about take the body with you. See that twitch? Like he gives that Norman Bates, Anthony Perkins kind of twitch, and I love it. This is all real. There is no set design. This is above Smith's Hotel. They were renovating the apartments upstairs. They were basically gutting them. So before they really started to do it, because this is a very old hotel, they allowed us to shoot here. And it had the perfect look of the seedy flop house kind of hotel. And this was really one of the first scenes that we shot with Davey. So in the film, most of you know that you don't shoot movies in chronological order unless you're a big time director and you have the luxury of doing that, like Stanley Kubrick. But this was shot all out of order. But this was one of the first scenes that we shot. I love Matt's photography, the way that he's able to convey the suspense, and we still hopefully have the audience engaged to know what's in the box. We never made any sounds in the script. The box made sounds. What is in the box. I mean, look, if you're watching this commentary, then you already saw the film and you know. The blob in the box made noise in the script. It like squeaked and it made like little purring sounds and all that. And I didn't want to do that. I didn't want to confuse this thing with some kind of horny tribble. So I eliminated any type of vocalization of the blob in the box. I kind of felt that it just didn't work and it was a little tropish. So I did consult with Mark about that to let him know that I was dropping the vocalization. Like when the box finally opens, the thing squeals because the light hits it. And we know what's in the box now and you know how it gets in the box. So it has no eyes and it really has no vocal cords. And there's just no way it could squeak or, make any type of, or vocalize. So I got rid of all that. Now coming up here, the cleaning lady is played by Sherry Fairchild, who is in a lot of horror films and a lot of trauma stuff. She came to me at first on Death House, and that's Sherry right there. And she just did such a great, subtle job. I wanted the cleaning lady, if a place like this actually has a cleaning lady, to be a kind of potential threat to Jerry in the way that if she doesn't mind her own business, will she discover what's in his room and will she discover what's in the box? Well, as you know, that never happens, but she is important in revealing to Lisa where Jerry will be, and she does it out of complete spite. Now, this guy right coming up here who plays the detective, Detective Barnes, is Paul Cotman. And what a find. We were so lucky to get this guy that I used him in my subsequent feature film, Where the Scary Things Are, which by the time you're listening to this is on its way out this fall. And Paul comes to us from Maryland, Baltimore, Maryland, and I said, we need to get this guy before he blows up, because not only is he a good-looking guy, but this son of a bitch can really act as well, too. He was stellar, and he's a pleasure to work with. Just one of the nicest people you could ever work with. And we got him because he sent in an audition video. He couldn't come personally to the auditions. And again, this was pre-COVID. However, Paul sent this video of a highlight reel, and there was a line in there, something like, I'm going to die, but I'm going to die rich. It was something like that. And it was the way that he said it was such zeal that we thought, there's our detective. And he got the part right there. And he plays extremely well against Doug's Yvonne. And what I love is that Paul did his own thing. He didn't try to do a Gumshoe Columbo kind of knockoff. I don't even think Paul is old enough to remember Columbo. But he just does his thing. He's this guy that he could have been a teacher. He could have been a professor. He could have been a forensics expert. Instead, he's a detective, and he's asking all the right questions, and nothing sits. And I wanted to draw the allusion, of course, to Psycho, that this is kind of like the Martin Balsam character in that film, and he's getting a little too close. What's cool is that Yvonne is so superstitious, he won't come in the room. Even after the detective invites him to come in, he says, I prefer to stand here. This big, scary guy doesn't want to come in the room. Again, the color schemes right here, again, all white, very bright. We wanted overexposed with the fluorescence to show the glaring banality of corporate America in the office. And we made them dress in the lighter colors, of course, with Mike as well in a white suit kind of thing. And again, trying to tempt Jerry to go out with him one more time tonight. But Jerry now has a smoke screen because he's just killed someone. So he's got his secret now. And the best part is, I don't even think his secret is what's on his mind. He wants to get back to the box. So I'm hoping by this point in this commentary, and when you watch the film, this is all very Tales from the Crypt, Tales from the Dark Side kind of feel, right? That's, again, what attracted me to Mark Steensland and James Newman's script. So we just have this whole feeling of dread that's slowly building. and someone's going to get theirs, because in those stories, that's how it always works. The bad guy, they get their comeuppance in the end. And, even when they're tragic comeuppances. And everybody involved, like Mike is definitely sharing part of the blame here. He's the one who talked Jerry into this whole thing, taking him to Madame Zora's. This scene was shot in called the Rockfish. It's a beautiful bar in downtown York. This scene right here is one of the first, if not, and talk about taking your actor and throwing them into the role. And this is where Davey had to basically get naked in front of the crew and do all of this stuff. And the best part is, he takes it seriously. So we didn't play this for laughs. We didn't joke around. We take it seriously. Also, a quick shout out to my Uncle JR, who was the carpenter who built the boxes for this film. He created a single completed one, and then one that could be assembled that you see in both the opening and closing of the assembly of the box. And because, look at him there. I mean, he has this smile like he just killed this woman. That's our DP right there. That is Matt Neese, who plays Nick Roberts, the local news guy. And Matt, he played it perfectly. I mean, it was great just to get Matt in there for a cameo. But it's here where I added a little something to the script and the story. And that is, what if you got a piece of this thing out of the box? Now, there are some scenes that never got shot. There was a scene where Yvonne takes Jerry up on this idea of taking a piece of the thing in the box and actually vaginally inserting it into the girls, because it gives them a climax as well too. But the whole goal, of course, is for male pleasure. And so right there, the audience, I'm sure, is wondering, is that Davies, or is that what's in the box? But look what he does here. He takes a dab of it, and just a dab will do you, and puts it in the proper place and gets one hell of a reaction. So you don't usually, it's hinted here that you don't really have to go through the trouble of fornicating with the box, that maybe just a touch of this thing can give you the stimulation you're looking for, which of course beckons marketing. Imagine that this is the ultimate aphrodisiac and gives you what you're experiencing right now. So we did have a scene lined up where I think it was Dave Sheridan's character, Mike, looks through the windows of the Madame Zora's parlor and sees him doing kind of like a gynecological insertion of this substance into the girls. And I thought again, probably going too far off into that really weird direction that could scare off a potential distributor. So we let it go. But you can see here that we did set it up. I mean, Jerry is very interested in what this just was. And no, that carpeting is not a reference to The Shining. That was just there. Jerry goes into the bathroom and gets like a small travel bottle of shampoo, and he puts this stuff in there. Now, again, this is the home of Mike and Angie Aldinger. So can't say enough about how beautiful their home is. And again, look at Sarah, the way that she is sitting there on the chair. She plays her best when she's extremely subtle. And that's what I love about working with her. And Jerry just acts like nothing's ever happened. I mean, he's killed someone. He has this on his conscience now. And he's acting like nothing's even wrong with the smiling and everything. Sarah plays hurt extremely well and wounded. And that's why I'm so glad Felissa brought her to this. I've been working with Felissa Rose for a long time. As most of you know, my Camp Dread, that's where I met her, and that I wrote the role of Rachel in that film specifically for Felissa because of course, its nod to Sleepaway Camp. And Felissa and I have gone on to work together on a number of projects since, and brought her on board as an associate producer here. Felissa, I swear, has one of the greatest horror Rolodexes in Hollywood. If there's somebody in the genre that you want, Felissa, if she can't get them, she can get to them. And most of all, at the conventions, she is just a ray of light. Felissa's just one of the kindest people out there. So here, Jerry is doing his thing again. Obviously now the addiction is coming through loud and clear, and it's very clear that he's got an issue. And his wife is now going to try to, fight fire with fire, I guess. She's going to try to spice things up with her husband. She knows something's wrong. She's pregnant, of course. He wasn't happy about it. A little bit of wine doesn't hurt, I guess. And we did this. Now, listen to me, we did this. We brought Sarah in because, number one, Sarah is an actress that is very comfortable in her own skin. And this was a role that, we were worried that a number of actresses could balk at because of the nudity. The nudity is important to this scene and to the film. It's not there to be gratuitous. And most of all, if you watch how this goes, we did this, that it's very mechanical. And that, look at him, he's trying to replicate doing what? I mean, by this time, he's getting more pleasure out of the box than he is his own wife. And there's nothing erotic about this scene, and most of all, nothing sexy. And in fact, that look of forlorn sadness on her face says it all. So we were really, really focusing on that it was not a scene of titillation, but rather that it's a scene of desperation and sadness. And the music that accompanies it from John Avarice really brings that point home. I'm very, very proud that we did a really good sex scene without being exploitative, and most of all, that our actress felt really, really comfortable doing. We're really proud of that. I'm just, again, my shout out to my crew and everybody involved. It was just great. So we have two Jerrys now. We have the Jerry at home, who's a very kind of like skulky, Weasley kind of guy. And then we have Jerry outside of it, who's just leaving right now, okay, after a quick rendezvous with the box. And he's feeling good about himself. And look at him. He's got a Tom Cruise kind of swagger, right? A little risky business thing going there. We had to be real careful parking in this parking deck. You can see that those stands, the supports, they're not very far apart. It's not the easiest place to navigate a vehicle. There was a major push with the special to use practical effects. I'm a big believer in practical effects. I have nothing against CGI, but I really wanted to make sure that when we do our reveal, which you can see here by this point in the film, we're getting closer to finding out what's in that box. But I wanted to make sure that it lived up to some of the expectation. CGI is great, and we use some CGI in this, but pretty much 99% of that CGI was used to clean things up. So the CGI was used to create faces on the phones and, things like that, and then clean up some of the stuff where the practical effects needed some, cleaning, getting rid of pipes, wires, things like that. So we're pretty excited about, with this reveal that'll be coming up here. In the meantime, the whole thing is about the characters and making sure that we have a really good, sustainable story for 90 minutes in this. And that really helps with the fact, again, like I said, with Sarah French's facial expressions and such, which match right up with Davy's. Davy here deliberately made sure that his eyes look baggy and that we're seeing a slow physical decline in him. And we're seeing a big difference now in the relationship between him and Mike. It's no longer the, old buddy, drinking buddy kind of relationship. Now they're at odds. And oddly enough, in this scene, Lisa seems to be the one he's at odds with. And not because he's in love with Lisa, but he just doesn't want a secret exposed. This scene right here with Sarah came out great. A practical effect is used here for her miscarriage. And we definitely allude to the fact that Jerry, who had put that dab of stuff from the box on his nether region, it infected her and it's caused her to miscarry. And the pain and everything that she's experiencing in the shower, which was real quick scene that we shot to make sure that the audience knew that she had lost the baby. I love this relationship between Paul Cotman and Doug Henderson, as Paul is the detective and Doug is the bodyguard, now manager of Madame Zora's Yvonne. And what I love is just the subtlety about this. I worked really hard to keep the tone down and not to make it flat, but to keep it real. And what I also did was, if you notice, we never have Yvonne approach the detective. Like, he could just pick this guy up and crush him if he wanted to. And I wanted to create an expectation that, oh, maybe this is it for the detective, right? Maybe this is where Yvonne's going to kill him. Maybe the detective's getting too close. But instead, we keep that distance between the two men. And a lot of people have asked, so what is the special? I mean, is it supernatural? Is it... We don't know. Now, we do allude here in this scene when he's looking at the books that Madame Zora had a lot of occult books. Was she a real psychic? I don't know. Was this a gypsy curse? We don't know. I like to think, and I'm going to say it officially on this commentary, it's my opinion that whatever does to you, what's in that box, whatever it is nothing supernatural. But I like to think that somebody brought back some kind of alien or even some prehistoric spore that had thawed out in Siberia. And we don't know how it got here. We don't know how Madame Zora got a hold of it and Yvonne. What we do know is that it makes a horrific physical transformation in whatever it infects. And that's what I think. A lot of people have asked, was Madame Zora some type of conjurer? And again, we right here with the mirror, we have the double image, the split image. This is important as well, too, for if you obviously have seen the film, you know what the fate of the detective is at the very end. Right now, he's looking for that box. So a lot of it came down to, look, you can give too much backstory on a film. I don't think we really need a lot of backstory to Michael Myers or Jason Voorhees or anything like that. Do we need a backstory on the shark from Jaws? Do we need to know why the shark is eating people and why it's angry? I don't think so. What in the special is, you paid to see this right here. And that is Jerry having sex with this box. And each time that he does it, and this, by the way, it's all part of the very first day scenes. This is the very first shot of the movie right here. And so we kind of threw Davey right into the cold water on this one. It's not an easy thing to do. I mean, you're sitting here watching this and you're going, okay, yeah, an actor got paid to do this. However, it's not easy because there were about 16 people in the room all around him with lights and boom mics and cameras. Not easy to do this. So again, Davey, if you're watching, my hat is off to you and thank you. We keep the running gag with the cleaning lady, trying to force expectation that she's going to go into his room. And right there, she has a very sly look. That's Sherry Fairchild. But she'll serve her purpose coming up. This was one of the second big scenes that we shot. We actually used a real medical clinic that had just transferred. They went to a whole new building and left their offices behind. And it's here, if you look at the equipment, I want you to see how dirty it is in the doctor's office. All of this was provided by a guy named Josh Reel. Josh Reel's clinic up in New York is called the KO Clinic. And it's like this weird industrial horror place. And I found him because he does this incredible set design, very Baroque and almost like H.R. Giger-like. And if you look here at the equipment in the doctor's office, you'll notice it's dirty. And he brought it all the way down from New York. And that included the clock on the wall, everything that you see equipment-wise. This was all brought by Josh Reel, and we can't thank him enough. He was the set designer for Death House on my previous film, Death House, and gave that film its total weird technological look. This is Blanda Nace, who plays the doctor, and he might as well be a country veterinarian as far as I'm concerned. He really doesn't provide much help. Again, I just love the fact that we just have this dirty kind of doctor's office, and he's just giving him this general prescription. Now, this pharmacy is a local pharmacy called Sloan's Pharmacy, and it's located in Mountville, Pennsylvania, right outside of Lancaster. It's a suburb of Lancaster. And they were kind enough to let us shoot there for one day to get in there and have a genuine pharmacy setting instead of, again, mocking something up on a soundstage. You just can't substitute for real and practical, which is why we went that way with the effects. And I love the way that Jerry just handles the pharmacist here when he says, "You just, rub it on my dick," right? And you can see that things are getting worse with him. And it's probably around this time that I think that some of the audience members watching this were like, I think I know where this is going. Okay, because he's obviously addicted to what's ever in there, and it's affecting his groin, his penis, everything like that. So it's getting worse. But now that the noose is starting to tighten, his wife is definitely suspecting something is really, really wrong. And again, this is the house that we use, The Real House by Mike and Angie Aldinger, who were just kind enough to let us have this. And what's really cool, and you don't see her, but they had this African frog in this tall jar right there on the counter. And her name was Sheila. And she would sing, and we had to move Sheila to another room because Sheila, right in the middle of a take, would start singing. She didn't croak. She had this very interesting sound. It sounded like crickets, but it was very pleasant sounding. And I almost thought, man, maybe I should backtrack on my stance of not having a sound from the thing and use Sheila's voice for the thing in the box. But I opted not to and stuck to a non-verbal, non-vocal kind of thing in the box. Right in here, Jerry. This scene got some contention from some reviewers here and there saying that shouldn't she be more upset that she miscarried? And what I'm trying to express here is that Jerry is the one that kind of takes away from all of that, because she says, well, look, I lost the baby, I miscarried, and he's just so indifferent about all of this. And it may not be the first time that she has miscarried, and I didn't want to get into the melodrama of it all. So what we had was Jerry doing the heavy lifting on this instead of her breaking down, and I didn't want to show her as, kind of weak. Now, I know you're saying, oh, well, wait a minute, she lost her baby, she should be emotional. I'm not knocking any of that. But for the sake of this, to keep the darkness on Jerry because of what Lisa's fate is ultimately to be, I wanted to keep the heavy lifting and the onus of this miscarriage on her husband. So it's not like she's indifferent. I mean, listen to what he says when he sits up. It's okay, we'll try again. It's just that simple. That's all we'll do. I'm really sorry. Are you okay? He never asks that. And that's what I really wanted to convey in this. We had several scenes that didn't make the final cut with more interaction between Jerry and Lisa, but we felt that really we were kind of getting off track. And I'm going to come up to something in a moment as we get darker into this and Jerry's dark secret is discovered, because I'm wrestling the whole time while making this with the idea or the fear that did I not go dark enough? And I was able to sit down with both Davey and Sarah at one point and express my concerns as a director that maybe we haven't gotten gross or taboo enough. Maybe not even gross, but taboo enough. The film is not meant to be scary. So yes, while it is a horror, it's really supposed to provoke discomfort. That's the whole point of this movie. I never set out to make a quote unquote scary movie. There really aren't any jump scares in this. There's more of like this, when he lifts his shirt and we look at it and we feel like, because look, STDs, they're scary to all of us. And you never know what form they're going to take on or how badly you're going to get them. So I wanted to focus on the reality of that kind of thing, look into some other areas. But the whole point is not to create a jump scare, monster movie. Again, see here where Sarah Rittmiller was our makeup artist, our hair and makeup artist, and she was wonderful in, giving the subtle touches to Jerry's face and making him look, sleep deprived and sick with flu-like symptoms. And we didn't want anything heavy at this point in time because, again, if you've seen the film, you know what happens to Jerry at the end. So we didn't want to telegraph all this very quickly. So now this is the scene where things start to really change. And as a director, I had to make a couple decisions here. In the original script from Mark Steensland and James Newman, it's right here, right about here where we discover what's in the box. As you know, Jerry gets alarmed right here. He looks to the box. He tries, to see what's in there. It's not doing what it's supposed to do. So the shelf life of this thing doesn't last very long because it has to cycle again. Everything, so it's timing up with really Jerry's deterioration. The worse the thing gets in the box, the worse Jerry gets in the box. Their fates are intertwined and they are linked together. Now, I know what you're saying. Well, Harrison, maybe then that's just, maybe it's supernatural. I'm still going the way, for me as a director, I still lean toward alien spore and some kind of mental and physical connection between host and parasite. This is a real plumbing store. And we're getting close now to, like I said, the crossroads moment in the script that I was just referencing. He's going to open the box. And I know what you guys are saying. Well, hey, he could just smash the box open. He could just pry the lid. It doesn't look like it's all that hard. But he's not thinking correctly. That was the whole point. Like, look, anybody walking into a hardware store would know what to do, right? Get either a screwdriver or a small pair of tin snippers, and you've got the lock off. Instead, look what he gets. He gets this giant set of bolt cutters, and he's just so happy to get out of it that he just takes the bolt cutters. The salesman right here is our DP's brother, Mitchell Neese. And he loves acting, and we got to put him in here. And he's going to be showing up in my Christmas movie as well, too. So I'm excited about that. Again, the big thing to keep in mind is that Jerry is not in his right mind any longer. Logic has gone totally out the window. Nothing is better than a real practical set. Can't say again how lucky we are on the indie level to get these local businesses to help us out. Very grateful. It was here that I was like, what do we do when he opens the box back in the hotel room? Do we show what's in the box? License. And I changed a little bit in Mark and James's script because I was concerned if we show what's in the box at this early in the game. I mean, we're about 55, 56 minutes in. We still have a good 25 to the smell 30 minutes left of this movie. He smells in there. It's not just that. What do I do? I mean, if the audience sees what's in the box at this early in the game, they're going to leave. They're going to be like, it's just script. He was supposed to take it out. Really reacts to the light. Like, okay, that's it. I sat through all of this to get this. Screeches and stuff. But that's really not what it is in the hotel room. So I needed to change things up a little bit. And that seems to. So in this scene right here, originally in the script, it was supposed to be the reveal of the thing. That's what he noticed. In the script, it called for him to open the box, and he pulls this thing out. But I didn't do that in this scene. And I remember I called Mark Steensland after he got to see the first cut of the film, and he said, I was really surprised. I didn't expect you to do that. And I didn't want to do anything to mess with Mark's script at all. But I just felt from a narrative standpoint, from a director's standpoint, that to show it right here, we would start losing our audience and they would just either turn the film off or just walk away from it and just be like, now I know what it is. So I had to couple it with something. So this scene right here, we again hear things going on and we see Jerry mounting what is in the box, but we still don't see it. And things now, I took this opportunity here to show that things are getting physically worse with Jerry. So whatever this thing is not in good shape either. So taking it out of the box may have revived it. I don't know, did it get more air? We never really explain. But here, when Jerry is finally done, he's going to open up his shirt and he's going to see that it's far worse. And again, I think this is where the audience, I think, is going, I see where this is going to end up, kind of thing. So he's gone down this rabbit hole. He's calling into work. He's going to put more cream on. It's not working. He's going to call into work. He's going to start messing with his job. He's not showing up for work. And again, as most reviewers and I think most viewers have caught on with this, this is not really a horror story. It's a story of addiction and the lies that come with addiction. Like right here, when Lisa comes home and she finds a credit card statement. And here he's got a credit card charge on this hotel room. And he's been acting funny. He's been indifferent, the whole thing. So she, again, it's very much like how it happens in real life. What does she do? She calls his buddy at work. And then she finds the secretary answers. She calls work and the secretary says, Jerry isn't here. I hope he's feeling better. So now the mysteries are starting to unravel. And anybody that's been in addiction and caught up in a web of lies can certainly get this. And that is why I said at one of the screenings, I believe it was in San Francisco, that's why I said, some of you are going to have some very awkward and uncomfortable conversations for when you leave tonight. So now we have the whole buildup, and this is where you're now going to see what's in the box. And again, I was pondering the whole time while shooting it as we got closer to the end, have I given the audience enough? Have I given you, the viewer, enough to keep you intrigued? And most of all, I guess not just engaged, but is it really horror to you? So that's when I sat down with both Davey and Sarah, and I proposed my idea of making the film a lot darker. And I invited in my producer, Doug Henderson, and I invited my DP because the DP is important. Most people don't give the DP, the director of photography, enough credit. The director of photography is seeing everything before the director does. It's all through the director of photography's eye. So I'm going to come back to this in a moment because it will be Matt and Doug and Sarah and Davey that finally helped me make my decision. There was even called, just so you know, by some to really ratchet up the violence and the blood and almost turn this into a quasi-slasher. And that's not the way I wanted to go either. And I know that's not what Mark Steensland and James wanted. Now here I told you the payoff with the cleaning lady. She realizes that Jerry is in that room. That's probably his wife. And she knocks on Jerry's door and sets it all up. She reveals to the wife that Jerry's in there, and she's taking a little solace in that. Now, where does the cleaning lady go? She's a red herring, folks. She's a MacGuffin. It doesn't matter about the cleaning lady. She was never going to come into the room and discover it, and Jerry wasn't going to kill her. That was one thing I wanted to make sure of, that it didn't just follow all the tropes. Here is where finally Jerry's wife, of course, confronts him. He'll come to the door, he'll let her in. Now, you know what he's doing on the other side. He's trying to hide his lover. And that's really what this is. She is expecting to barge in and catch him with some two-bit whore or some girlfriend in this cheap, shitty apartment. And the smell hits her right away. And so, again, this wife is thinking some dirty girl, because she even asks, is it her? That's why it stinks. Is it her? Right here she says it. Yep, there she goes. I love Davey's face. This is a boy who is caught by his mother. It's also a man that is now caught by his wife. He's trying to plead his way out of it, and we know where this is going to go. It's not going to end up well. And that's what I talked to these two characters about. And when I sat down with them, I wanted to go, or at least entertain the idea of making this a lot darker than what comes out. So here we go on this whole, just follow me here as this scene plays out. So the wife now realizes they crossed the point of no return. She physically assaults her husband, and she goes in to find the other woman. Now keep in mind, she rips open that shower curtain expecting a woman, or at worst, a man, and she finds this. And now you see it for the first time. And her reaction is ours. What the fuck is that, is what she says. But now notice, I bring Jerry in to kill her. Now I've kept the audience engaged and invested. Just because they find this blob, it's not like, oh, well, that's it. All right, I found out what it is. I'm turning the movie off. Now we're going deeper with Jerry. It's like, oh, holy shit, he just killed his wife. And look how he killed her. So personally. There is torture in him as he kills her. It's not just the strength. It's not like she's so hard to kill here that he's giving that face. It is the mental anguish, because every addict knows deep inside what they're doing and when they're destroying themselves and their lives and those around them. So it's here where Jerry is coming to the reckoning, but he had to choose his addiction over his wife. You'll notice here what he's doing. Here's where I wanted to go darker. And the darker part was, what if Jerry, after throughout this whole movie is showing kind of sexual indifference toward his wife, now that she's dead and an inanimate object, what if now he's suddenly attracted to her? And I offered up the idea of a necrophilia scene where we see Jerry naked atop of his naked wife. He strips her down and has sex with her while she's dead, because now she is inanimate like the box, and attractive. And here we see him with his lover, looking at his dead wife. This is, by the way, coming up, the only jump scare in the whole movie, because we needed to give him something to do in the way of killing her worse, to provide a little bit of violence here. But notice, you can see where I was going. He's touching her body, touching her breast. Suddenly he's attracted to what really is a box, an inanimate object. And both actors were fine with doing that necrophilia scene. We did not shoot it, because in the end, Matt and Doug and both Davey and Sarah felt that we had struck the right tone in horror and discomfort and taboo. So we took it just there. We are implying that he may be sexually attracted to her now that she is dead, but we never show it. And that's the better way to go. Now, in the script, she is killed with the bolt cutters. That's why he got them. And I wanted to keep that for Mark and James, so we have it right here. It wasn't that he strangled her in the script and snuffed her out that way. So the bolt cutters finally finish her off. That doctor on the screen is a real-life doctor, Dr. John Teskey, a personal friend who is really good talking about addictions and things like that. So we went to a local TV station and shot one of those like local talk show kind of things to play in the background as Teskey talks to his guest about addiction, which plays in the background. A little heavy-handed, but I wanted to bring that point home. And now this evokes, I really wanted to evoke Norman Bates cleaning up after Janet Leigh's murder in Psycho. He's in a hotel room, or it was a motel in Psycho, but look at him with that boyish face, the blood on it, and he's cleaning up like a dutiful son kind of thing to clean everything up and make sure everything's back to keep his secret. And again, mirrors with split images, a direct tip of the hat to Psycho. Jerry is looking at someone who is not him any longer. The addiction has changed him. You'll get a really cool thing here. We added this where he cleans his wife up out of respect in the shower. I mean, there's love for her somewhere in him. And then when he wraps her up, you'll take a look. Doug did the CGI on this to remove a part of Sarah's head, and it looks great, I think. I remember in the theatrical screening, the audience gasped when they saw the condition of her head. There it is. Look at that. Isn't that great? That is not a practical effect there. There was blood on her skin, but Doug filled that all in, and I just think it's masterful. We have the body now in the back seat, and things are starting to ratchet up. And we got him here now. Of course, we have to tie in the hardware salesman with the snowblower and Jerry's confrontation, because now it really shows that Jerry is way down deep and he just can't get out. So I hope I made it clear before we get to the ending here on my thoughts. And I'd like to know if you're done, when you're done with this commentary, I'd love to hear from you on Twitter. If you'd be able to tell me your thoughts on going dark. Should we have gone that dark and that taboo? And I'm constantly haunted by two films in that respect for distribution. One of them is The Human Centipede, and then the other is a Serbian film. And I find a Serbian film not really a movie. I just think it's a depraved form of filmmaking. And I'm very sorry that I watched it, that I actually gave the 2 hours of my life to sit down and watch. And I watched a Serbian film when it first came here. I saw it at a private screening in Philadelphia at some distribution convention. And I was really sorry that I did. It's not something I would ever want to sit through again. And I guess I didn't want the special to go into that territory where it's just so disgusting or so depraved that it loses its merit as a motion picture and becomes more of a freak show. And that's what I really wanted to avoid. We worked really hard with Mark and James's script because they both focused on characters. They did not focus on the gross out. They did not focus on the taboo. Yeah, they have a fucked up, weird story, but it's not so fucked up and weird that it's going to turn off the majority of the people that watch it. And believe me, we could have gone totally gross, and I had actors that were fully fine with going all the way on that. But instead, we focused on our practical effects, good characterization, and most of all, making sure we deliver a story about addiction. So it's here where I kind of substituted in the script. Jerry brings the thing home, and he runs water over it to keep it alive. And that's Mark Kasabucky, our special effects artist, is sitting just to the right. We have pipes and tubes that were painted out. They're coming right from Jerry's left elbow. And he was blowing into it. He was sucking air and blowing to give the thing a pulsing effect to make sure that it looks like it breathes. And we have our PA, Jess Dentith, who is a big horror fan, and a daughter of someone that I went to elementary school with when I from fourth grade on. And now this friend has a daughter, and Jess wanted to PA on my film, and I brought her down. She came down and PA'd, and she is substituting for Sarah as the body in the bag right there. This was shot before Sarah arrived on set, and we need to get the scene done. So it is Jess that's in there. And just so you know, when Jerry gets up, you'll hear him. People said, oh, it was so cute and sweet that he said, I'm sorry, or are you okay? Because he gets up and he let the body fall, and they thought it was out of concern for his wife. Instead, he was asking Jess that, and we decided to leave it in the film because it's just this nice little happy accident that happened. So now we have Jerry, of course, recreating Madame Zora's room, and he wants to recreate that in the lighting of the purple and the pink, and he's going to block out the windows, and because this thing doesn't like light, and consequently neither does Jerry. And I just love the way that this was all edited and put together. It could have been a very long and dragged out scene, and instead Doug, they just sat down and just cut and put it together, and we get the whole point, and it moves very quickly. Remember, we don't have a monster that has claws and is running around and slaughtering people to keep that action going. So we've got to keep the manic feeling of our protagonist, Jerry. We've got to keep you focused on him and living it through his story. The story is told through Jerry's point of view. And so I want the audience to feel that, and hopefully that keeps you all engaged. Now he's recreated his love nest. And it's here where we got to have some fun. And Davey got to have fun. Kissing, caressing this thing. This is now his lover. And if you've noticed, he's giving this thing far more love and attention than he ever did his wife. So he's totally 100% in love with this thing. It's not just lust anymore. He cares about it. That's his addiction now. The guy who started it all, Mike, well, who knows what he's thinking and pondering until, of course, he's going to see this newscast. Now, we did all of this again, just shot this outside the York Hotel, and, just tried to recreate that local news feel, those graphics and everything. There's our DP, Matt Neese, back again as Nick Roberts. And that's real snow. That's not CGI or fake snow. It was that damn cold that day. And if you see Doug in real life, I welcome you, by the way, to Google Doug Henderson. He starred also in a great film on Netflix called Haze, a college film, which is just terrific. I can't talk enough about that movie. And also there is Dan Brenkert in the beard, sitting right where Mike was, to Mike's right. He is our assistant camera and one of our crew members, and a great guy. And this was Anthony Barber's last scene as the disgusting, seedy hotel manager. And just love him, especially just when he drops out the word cum rags. This guy just makes the English language filthy. And this confrontation between the two, here is Jerry. You notice he's itching a lot now, scratching. He's going downhill, but he's still confrontational. Jerry is still a prick, even though his physical health is declining and things are worse and worse and worse. He's got his wife now dead in a crawl space in his house. Madame Zora is dead. It's obvious that the police are going to be tracking him down. He's still arrogant. That's what an addiction will do. He'll do anything to keep that addiction and keep this life. Now, we had weighed back and forth. There were calls to kill Mike in a very bloody way. In the script, he's dispatched by a knife. And in this, I decided again to keep it more personal by killing Mike with strangulation and suffocation, because it's a far more personal way to go. So we wanted to add a little suspense here. Look, we know the thing doesn't jump out. It's not the Blob. And that's another thing that I had to be very, very careful of as a director, because an audience would think that this thing is going to eventually go homicidal. It's going to crawl. We're going to see scenes of this goopy thing crawling like, all over the place and eating people or jumping on Mike's face. There's nothing like that at all. It's a very passive thing. In fact, the creature is pretty much a rape victim in this as well, too. It's being sex trafficked is really what it is, but you don't really have much sympathy, because when you obviously know what's in the box and what that thing became, at what it was before, an entirely different story. I'm very proud of the lighting and the purple and the lights coming under the doors. Again, having that film noir and very bizarre, almost Creepshow pastel effect. If you remember in Creepshow, George Romero really worked with the comic book colors and characters. And also in Vamp, if you remember 1986's Vamp, I love the lighting and the production design of Vamp. It's a completely underrated film. Again, another really cold night, forcing my actors and our crew and all of us out there. This was, again, another probably 7 degrees below zero night, everything freezing. And we did this scene here very quickly because this was Dave Sheridan's last night on set. And we wanted to make sure we got everything, but we also had to move along because the weather was really, really bad while we shot this. We just got through another ice storm and snowstorm, and another one was called to be on the way. Now you'll notice the thing is looking worse. It's darker. It's leaking this green ooze. And Mike knows what this thing is. Look, he's not surprised when he looks in the tub. So either he got a look at what it was in the box, or he just assumed that's what's in the box. Now, we have alluded to the fact that Mike has had the special, but he only did it once. That's why he warned Jerry. Also notice that Jerry so hates the snowblower, he never put it in the garage, because he equates that with part of the downward spiral of his life. It all started with that fucking snowblower and his wife texting the snowblower salesman. This here we shot about 4 times. Again, this is Dave Sheridan's last night on set. And I love this confrontation between the two friends, because Jerry has gone now full-blown psycho. And you can tell that the rash is now extended all over his body. And things just are not good any longer. And there is no more moment of, you're my buddy, you're my pal. And even Mike here, he even offers, he'll cover up. If you really did kill Madame Zora, I'll cover it up for you, dude. You're my buddy, you're my friend. But here's the problem. Jerry equates Mike as really the one who caused this whole thing. And he tells him in that scene, you're the one who took me there. You're the one who told me that this was all okay. And so instead of taking personal responsibility and accountability, well, he's going to take it out on Mike. And look at that face, man. Again, this is why I have Davey in this role. He can do 5 different emotions at once. And there's just between psychopathic and sympathy, sadness, boyish, and then handsome, good, adult good looks. It's just amazing how he works. And I don't use that word often. It really is. I'm always amazed at Davey's faces. So he can play a number of things, and I really hope this film helps break him out. Now you'll notice in the background, we have a clue sitting there on the counter because we alluded to it before, and here it comes. Davey takes the bag, just as Mike had him do when he took him to Madame Zora's. It began with the bag over the head. It will end with the bag over the head. We did this fight about 4 times in one night to get this done. And it's where Davey finally chokes him out and suffocates him with the bag. And again, we wanted that more personal way of killing someone instead of just stabbing them or shooting them. To stab someone, you take that weapon, you thrust it into him, and it's done. It is personal. It's far more personal than a gun. And we thought of a variety of different ways. Was he even going to use the bolt cutters on Mike? But we decided in the end that Mike should be dispatched by the bag over the head, which brings everything full circle, because that's the whole point of this movie. Everything is full circle. You'll know that in the final shot of this motion picture. So, of course, what does he go back to? He goes back to his baby, right? Back to his lover. She wasn't harmed. Maybe he was even thinking, not that Mike was going to take it, Did Mike have sex with his lover? There's always that possibility as well, too. And I thought of adding some dialogue at the end where, Jerry asks Mike, did you touch her? Did you lay a hand on her? Again, trying to defend her honor, if you will. The thing is now getting worse. It's degrading every scene. And he snuggles up with his lover and keeps her close. So the addiction is now 100%. And Mike is lying dead on his kitchen floor. We don't even bother to show. Does he hide Mike? It doesn't even matter anymore. And of course, now this reveal in the shower shows that Jerry is on his way down and that the end really can't be all that far. Now, the special effects here, all body and trauma effects, and the blob are Mark Kosobucky, Monster Mark. The final transformation scenes, the big ending for Jerry, that is all done by Roy Kinnearum and SOTA Special Effects, SOTA Effects in Los Angeles. And we had Kat Bernier, I'm sorry, Kat, if I'm mispronouncing it, Bernier Sowell on set as our makeup artist and puppeteer that really helped us with all the final things at the end. It will be Roy's team that will create the final transformations of Jerry, the elongated neck, the mouth moving at the end. You'll see all that with the head when it goes in the box. All of this magic right here is Mark. And Mark said, he goes, I always wanted to be a monster puppeteer. He's sitting right over to Jerry's left, to the right of your screen. Mark is down below, and he's just blowing into these tubes and sucking air out of these tubes to make this thing pulse and move. And we just CGI'd out the tubes. That was all we did. That was all the CGI that was used. So now we have the neighbors. These are all friends of both Doug and Matt, and also the people that own the home. So we wanted to give them a shot in the film. That's Patty Stirk in the middle, who owns the Small Star Theater in York. So, we wanted to get as many people involved to say thank you as we could. So they play the nosy interloping neighbors. And I just love this whole why don't you all just fuck off scene with Jerry, which shows that he's just not in his right mind. So what's in that house? His dead best friend and his dead wife. And they were supposed to be there to celebrate his birthday. So again, Jerry gets to, or Davey, I should say, just really gets to have some fun here. And I love when he just says, well, why don't you just fuck off, George? It just works really well to see how these people react. I love the reactions and the aghast looks. Shelley to the right has this aghast look. And Doug said when editing this scene, this is the scene that bothered him the most. It was Davey's performance of absolute mourning with the thing, because it's dead now. I mean, look at it. It deflated. The last romp of sex that he had probably finished it off. And now it's just like this big, wet, black glop of tar or goo. And it's Jerry's emotional breakdown here, because it's more than that his lover died. His addiction is now confronted with he can't have it anymore. And now what the hell is going to happen? The stuff that you see dripping all over the place is just black slime. We had gallons of this shit on set. You can't go wrong with enough slime. And here's Jerry weeping. And Doug said while he was editing, he's like, man, I felt so uncomfortable watching this. And I'm sure Doug will be able to say that for himself in the second version of this commentary, because I'm going to bring Matt and Doug in on this so they can talk about their time with putting all of this together. The dead thing was just latex and silicone with a lot of black slime layered all over it. And there's only one person now that can help Jerry, and that is Yvonne. So he's got to go back to Madame Zora's. I regret as a director, it's going to sound silly, but I wanted to shoot a scene, and we just had no more time left. But I wanted to shoot a scene of Jerry just walking down the street to Madame Zora's in his robe, and I wanted him all disheveled, and he's walking down the street in his robe with the thing in it that's in the box, and just walking all zombie-like down there. But we just didn't have time to shoot it, and man, I wish we did. So now we have this great scene where Jerry comes to plead with Yvonne. Now, you know that something bad is going to happen here. Yvonne is not a compassionate man. Jerry killed his boss and his benefactor, and he obviously had an emotional tie and connection and love for Madame Zora. So Yvonne is not going to help this guy. So we filled the bag, by the way, with old food to give it a bad smell, and so that everybody kind of reacts to it instead of just putting the rubber thing in the bag to give it some weight and also some smell and atmosphere. And so now it ends. See where it goes? It comes full circle. Jerry's back in the room where it all started, with the mirror strategically placed in the back for the split image. And Jerry here is so pathetic. He's so jonesing for another hit of this that he's coming up with all these ridiculous ideas that look, I figured out that if you take a piece of it and insert it into the girl, it gets them off too. But it's really about the guy. So, your male patrons that come here, we could really, market this thing. In fact, maybe is Jerry even having delusions of grandeur of franchising the special? Now, Mark Steensland said in an earlier draft of his script that they actually had this thing multiplying, that there were numbers of these little special things all over the place. That was not the script that I got, but he did say he kind of equated them with, filthy tribbles, which I had talked about earlier. But instead, we just kept it to the one. So Yvonne now is going to lock him in the room, and this is where it begins now, where Soda Effects, Roy's team, and Kat, they take over. And they started their special effects work right here, which is Jerry's transformation. So it's here where I believe that there really was nothing supernatural. There was no gypsy curse. I think somewhere along the line, whether this has been in Madame Zora's family or Yvonne's family for a long time, but some kind of spore was brought back from Siberia, and that it was cultivated and passed down for generations. And, Madame Zora was able to build a business around it. I don't know. It might make for a good prequel. There's enough material there for a prequel. I don't think there's enough there for a sequel. Maybe Mark and James would disagree with that. But I think a prequel of maybe how we got this thing, maybe that might also be too much backstory. But I love here Davy's reaction as he's literally now starting to fall apart. Whatever is going on is accelerating. And that's what was going on in the script as well, too. When he arrived in the script, as Yvonne is now building a new box, and we now know that Yvonne is building the new box for Jerry. And so we come back again, full circle. This is how the movie opened, with the building of the box, and now we're seeing it getting ready. And the box is kind of a coffin for Jerry as well. The sound effects here were really important. My sound designer, John Avarice, who also did the music, is terrific with sound design. He used all kinds of real Foley. Foley is when you recreate the sounds in a microphone right there. You just don't layer them in from a digital source, but you actually make the real sounds. John was like breaking hard candy in his teeth to make the sound of the tooth coming out and the crunch and all of that. And so now Jerry is getting worse. You can see that it's accelerating. This is all Soda and Roy right here. And I wanted to invoke the big ending. A lot of people have said basket case, and there's no doubt about basket case with the blob in the box. But here I wanted to invoke the beast within, if you remember that from 1981-82, that big transformation scene at the end. So we have a lot of physical work here, practical work in the way of bladders, air bladders, to make his body pulse and his cheeks pulse. We really need to give you guys something at the end here. All the viewers need to get a big payoff. And that is one thing I've consistently heard in the reviews and from people who have watched, that the last 5 minutes is worth the wait, because we really do give it to you. So this is all makeup, latex and silicone. Davy was in makeup for about 4.5 hours to get all of this on. And now you'll see coming up here that the effects are, the face is changing. Kat was able to morph his face more and more. It's got a little bit of the fly, like Brundlefly, right? His teeth are coming out. All these prosthetics were put into Davy. For each time we come back, his transformation is worse. And Yvonne is just waiting it all out. That's all he's doing. He knows he's been through this before. Now we're starting to see this is part of a cycle. This is not Davy any longer. This is a hand puppet that was operated with pulleys, a push lever inside, and bladders, people blowing into pipes and making the head pulsate. All this right here, again, is a puppet. It is no longer Davy because the script required, and it said, Mark wrote it in the script, that the head comes off with a crack like a corn cob breaking. So that became an on-set joke. And Doug here is pulling the puppet head apart. We had CGI used here to hide the wires and also the pipes that were inside that sprayed out the goo. You can see that we have blood and everything coming out. Look at the mouth. The mouth is moving. That is a practical effect from a technician below the box in a cupboard, pulling wires like a marionette to make the mouth move. That is all 100% practical. And then, as I keep saying, of everything coming full circle, we come back to the detective. Hey, where's he been? And Paul comes in, and we see that now he's compromised. It seemed like he was a pretty ethical guy for most of the movie. But then he gets a look at these three beautiful women, and now suddenly there's a little temptation here. They make it out really clear here that they've discovered that Jerry might just be the killer, that they found DNA on the money that was left in Madame Zora's hand. But that's all nothing. The whole point is we know Jerry killed everybody. This is not the detective's story. We were not worried about the detective finding out that Jerry was the killer. It's not a murder mystery or a thriller. Instead, the detective, his sole purpose in this film is to become the next cog in the machine and to create the cycle all over again. So when Yvonne offers him the special, which is right here on the house, the whole thing will repeat. And that's why everything comes full circle. Notice he grabbed his mouth where he talked before about a piece of popcorn stuck in the tooth, something doesn't sit right. Well, it doesn't sit right. Here's your final scene. Jerry looking out at the detective. The detective has got his man. And now it starts all over again. Ladies and gentlemen, this is Harrison Smith, director of the special, and I want to say thank you to everyone associated with this film. Please take the time to read these credits and look at the people that were involved. I can't say how proud I am of this film. I really am. I'm very, very pleased with this movie and all that went into it, from my crew to the cast, to editing, post-production, Matt and Doug and Roy and Mark. I mean, I could sit here and just read you all the credits and tell you a story about pretty much every single person on this credit. A movie is not a single thing. A director is not the only one who makes a movie. And one more thing, stay tuned till the end of the credits. There is a post-credit sequence. And yes, that is Richard Christie from The Howard Stern Show, who is a big horror fan and a fan of mine and my Camp Dread and Death House. And Richard wanted to be a part of this, so he recorded that scene in New York City for the special. Enjoy Richard.